The silence that only the chosen survive. Before you scroll, before you dismiss this as coincidence, before you tell yourself this message is not for you. Pause. Not because these words demand your attention, but because something higher already stopped you here. You did not arrive at this message randomly. Your delay, your stillness, your unanswered prayers, this quiet stretch of your life where nothing seems to move. This is not rejection. This is heaven rewriting your path. And only the chosen experience this kind of silence. The silence that hurts because it matters. If heaven had rejected you, you would feel numb, detached, and disconnected. Instead, you feel aware. You feel restless. You feel like something should be happening, but isn't. That discomfort is not failure. It is sensitivity. It means your soul is still tuned in. People who are truly abandoned do not question the silence. They don't search for meaning. They don't feel this inner pull. You do. Because this silence is not absence. It is attention. Why it feels like everyone else is moving forward. Let's say the part out loud that you've been trying not to think. You've watched others move ahead. People who doubted you. People who hurt you. People who didn't work as hard. People who never questioned their purpose. They advanced. You paused. And the question crept in. Why them? And not me? Here is the truth that almost no one tells chosen ones. Heaven does not rush what it intends to protect. Some paths are simple. Some lives are lightweight. They can move quickly without consequence. Yours is not. Your future carries weight. Your words carry impact. Your presence alters outcomes. So heaven slowed you down, not because you were behind, but because you were ahead of schedule for something dangerous. Silence is heaven's most serious phase. When heaven speaks loudly, everyone hears it. But when heaven goes silent, it is speaking only to the few who can handle it. Silence is not inactivity. Silence is precision. Think about it. A surgeon does not explain every move mid-operation. A chess master goes quiet before the decisive move. An author pauses before rewriting the ending of the story. Silence means something important is being adjusted. Right now, heaven is not answering your questions because answers would limit what is being redesigned. You are not being ignored. You are being worked on. You entered the rewrite phase, whether you realized it or not. There is a phase chosen ones enter that most people never do. It's the phase where old goals lose their meaning, old dreams stop exciting you, old versions of yourself feel uncomfortable. You don't fit where you used to belong, but you don't yet see where you're going. That in-between space feels terrifying, but it has a name: rewriting. Heaven looked at the path you were on and said, "This ending will not sustain them." So it paused the story, not to erase you, but to rebuild the foundation. You are not lost. You are under reconstruction. Why this silence feels so personal for others? Delays are external. For chosen ones, delays are internal. Your silence didn't just pause opportunities. It challenged your identity. You began asking, who am I without progress? What am I worth if nothing is moving? Did I misunderstand my calling? These questions are not punishment. They are refinement. Heaven is stripping away who you thought you were, so you don't limit who you're becoming. The loneliness of being chosen. This silence often comes with isolation.
Even when you're surrounded by people, you feel unseen. Even in conversations, you feel separate. That's not because something is wrong with you. It's because your frequency changed. Your spirit outgrew noise. Your soul outgrew shallow validation. Your heart outgrew borrowed dreams. And heaven will not send aligned connections until misaligned ones naturally fall away. Silence creates space, and space is necessary for alignment. You were being protected from what you prayed for. This part is hard to accept, but essential. Some of the things you asked for earlier, the relationship, the opportunity, the visibility, the responsibility would have crushed you in the version you were then. You didn't know the cost. Heaven did. So instead of saying no, it said, not yet. Silence is heaven standing between you and something you were not ready to carry. Delay is protection wearing uncomfortable clothing. The real test is happening right now. Heaven is not testing your faith and success. It is testing your response to waiting. Who are you when? No one applauds, no door opens, no timeline makes sense, no reassurance comes? Do you rush into substitutes? Do you settle for noise? Do you abandon your values to feel movement? Or do you remain grounded, even without updates? Chosen ones are not defined by speed. They are defined by alignment under pressure. Why you found this message? You did not read this far by accident. Something in you recognized this truth. That recognition means you are still connected, you are still guided, you are still chosen. The silence did not end your story. It protected the next chapter. What comes after the silence? When this phase ends, it won't explode loudly. It will shift accurately. Doors will open without force. People will recognize you without explanation. Opportunities will meet you halfway. And you will realize the silence was not rejection. It was heaven rewriting your path, so when you finally move, you move correctly. Why the delay is longer for you than for everyone else? If you are honest with yourself, you already know this. Your delay has not been ordinary. This wasn't a short pause. This wasn't a simple detour. This wasn't a quick lesson. This was a season. Months where nothing moved. Years where effort didn't equal progress. Moments where you wondered if you had misunderstood your purpose entirely. And the question kept repeating in your mind, why is it taking so long? The answer is not simple, but it is precise. Chosen ones are delayed because they are built for wait. Some people are designed for speed. Others are designed for scale. Speed gets you somewhere fast. Scale determines how much you can carry once you arrive. Your delay is not about arrival, it's about capacity. Heaven does not place weight on structures that haven't been reinforced, and your future carries pressure, influence, responsibility, visibility, consequence. So heaven slowed the process. Not because you were weak, but because you were meant to hold more than most. Why others got shortcuts and you didn't? You've probably noticed this pattern. Others seem to get lucky. Connections fall into their lap. Opportunities appear without preparation, and you had to earn everything the hard way. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Shortcuts are allowed when the outcome doesn't matter much. Heaven gives shortcuts to people whose impact is limited. But when your choices affect others, when your words shape minds, when your decisions echo forward, heaven becomes careful. You are not being treated unfairly. You are being treated seriously. The silence is not about punishment. It's about precision. Most people assume silence means something went wrong. But in divine timing, silence often means something is being adjusted. Imagine being handed the right destination with the wrong map. You'd still end up lost. So heaven pauses the journey to redraw the route. This is why your old plans stopped working. This is why the strategy that helped others didn't help you. This is why copying someone else's path felt wrong. Your route is custom, and custom paths take longer to design. The internal transformation no one sees. Here's what silence does that movement never could. Silence exposes you. Without noise, without validation, without progress updates. You are forced to face yourself, your motives, your attachments, your fears, your need for control. This is where many people fail. They mistake exposure for rejection. But heaven is not trying to embarrass you. It is trying to purify your intent. So when success comes, it doesn't own you. Why your identity had to break before your life could build. This part hurts the most. The silence didn't just slow your life. It destabilized your identity. You were once the achiever, the helper, the strong one, the reliable one. Then suddenly nothing reinforced that identity anymore, and you felt invisible. But here's the truth. Heaven does not build futures on fragile identities. If your worth was tied only to productivity, recognition would have destroyed you. So heaven removed the props, not to erase you, but to show you who you are without applause. That version is the one heaven trusts. The isolation was intentional. You didn't drift away from people by accident. Some relationships ended quietly. Some connections lost energy. Some conversations stopped making sense. You thought, why do I feel so alone during the hardest season? Because noise interferes with alignment. Some people were attached to your old version. Some only knew how to access you when you were overgiving. Some would have pulled you back into old patterns. So heaven reduced the audience. Isolation was not abandonment. It was protection from interference. Why you couldn't explain what you were going through. Another painful part of this season, no one really understood you. When you tried to explain, the words didn't land. Advice felt shallow. Encouragement felt misplaced. That's because this wasn't a logical phase. It was a spiritual recalibration. You were being reprogrammed at a level language can't describe. And heaven doesn't explain deep transformations publicly. It does them privately. The temptation to quit was the real test. Let's be real. You didn't just feel discouraged. You considered walking away. From the dream, from the calling, from the version of life you once believed in. And that temptation wasn't random. It was the final filter. Many people are called, few are chosen, and even fewer stay when nothing confirms them. Heaven needed to know, will you remain aligned even when it costs you certainty? That question determines access. What was quietly installed? During the delay, while you thought nothing was happening, this was forming inside you. Emotional discipline, discernment instead of impulsiveness, depth instead of speed, authority without arrogance, faith without constant reassurance. These are not surface-level traits. They are load-bearing qualities, and they cannot be rushed. Why the silence had to last this long? Because partial transformation would have produced partial outcomes. Heaven does not half-build foundations. If the silence ended too early, you would have outgrown the result. So it stayed. Until you stopped chasing noise. You stopped forcing timelines. You stopped trying to prove yourself. You learned to stand still without breaking. That's when heaven knew you were ready. Signs you are near the end of the rewrite phase. Here's how you know the silence is almost complete. You no longer panic when nothing moves. You feel calm without explanations. You're less reactive and more observant. Old desires don't control you anymore. You feel internally steady, even without results. This is not stagnation. This is stability, and stability attracts precision. What comes next is not chaos, it's alignment. The next phase will not feel rushed. It will feel right. Things will click. Decisions will simplify. Resistance will decrease. Not because life gets easier, but because you're finally aligned with your lane. You won't have to force doors. You won't have to convince people. You won't have to betray yourself to move forward. That's how you know heaven finished rewriting. Why reading this right now matters. If this message resonates deeply, it's because the delay is doing its final work. You're not waiting anymore. You're readying. And what's coming next requires exactly who you've become, not who you used to be.